Welcome back to World History, where the past isn't just remembered, it's revealed. Today, we step into the shadowed corridors of Buckingham Palace, where the polished image of Queen Victoria hides a world of tension, secrecy, and scandal. This is not the story told in school books. This is the hidden truth. She was only 18 when she ascended the throne. The image we often see, a poised, composed young queen, tells just part of the story. Behind closed doors, she sat alone, in her royal chamber lit only by the flicker of gaslight. Her face was tense, her eyes filled with unspoken fear and determination. Victoria wasn't just learning to rule, she was learning to survive. In the darkness of her chamber, secrets grew like ivy dot by candlelight. Victoria often poured her deepest thoughts into a leather-bound diary. But not all of these entries were meant to be read. Her pen scratched across the page with suspicion, her brows furrowed. Some believed her diary held confessions, thoughts she could never share aloud. Did she write of betrayal? Of forbidden desire? Or of something even more dangerous? Outside, Buckingham Palace loomed under a stormy sky, an elegant prison, brimming with secrets. Power echoed through its halls, but so did whispers. Shadows moved behind velvet curtains. Servants knew to keep their heads down and their mouths shut. Even her relationship with Prince Albert wasn't immune to strain. Behind the grandeur of the Victorian drawing rooms, they clashed. Albert, intellectual and exacting, challenged her authority. Arguments erupted, not just over politics, but over loyalty and control. One such quarrel, fierce and private, nearly fractured the bond they showed the world. But there was someone who stirred rumors that echoed across the empire, John Brown, a rugged Scotsman, her servant at Balmoral Castle. In the misty gardens of that Highland retreat, Victoria met him in secrecy. Their connection was undeniable, warm, familiar, and to some scandalously close. What began as companionship in grief after Albert's death quickly bloomed into gossip. Soon, a newspaper headline rocked Victorian society. The suggestion that the Queen's mourning had become more than symbolic. Londoners gasped as they read between the lines. The widow of Windsor, seen draped in black, was spotted far too often with Brown, standing close behind her. Always watchful, always near. Then came the unveiling of a curious painting in the royal gallery. Look closer and you'll see it, a symbol hidden in the corner. A subtle nod, perhaps, to someone the court didn't dare name. Was it a message, a private tribute, or a secret defiance? Inside the archives, a forged royal document passed between trembling hands. It wasn't just the content that disturbed the advisors, it was the handwriting. Nearly identical to the Queen's. Was someone inside the palace working against her, or was the Queen herself rewriting history? Even her children weren't safe from the storm. A royal advisor leaned in, whispering something into their ears. Their faces fell, concern etched deep into youthful brows. Whatever was said wasn't meant for public ears. It was the beginning of something darker. And so, behind the veil of mourning and monarchy, the young Queen Victoria was already entangled in a web of secrets, power plays, and dangerous affection. This was the side of empire that history tried to forget. But the shadows still speak. The deeper we go into Queen Victoria's reign, the darker the shadows become. Windsor Castle, towering and timeless, hides more than portraits and pageantry. Its stone corridors stretch endlessly, cold and silent except for the whispers of betrayal that seem to linger in the air like ghostly shadows. Rumors walk those halls long before historians ever did, and every flickering torch along the wall once lit the path of someone hiding something far from the safety of the palace. The streets of London pulsed with curiosity. Beneath gas lamps and swirling fog, a lone journalist followed a cloaked figure. It was the Queen herself, slipping into the night. She thought she moved unseen, but someone was always watching. The Queen who ruled an empire by daylight moved through shadows after dusk, and that, to many, was more telling than any official decree. Hidden away in her private study, Victoria received a letter. It was not from a diplomat nor a child. It was from John Brown. The writing was unmistakable, tender, deeply personal. Carefully, She unfolded the parchment under dim candlelight, reading in silence. These were words never meant for royal archives. Words of affection, perhaps love, written by a man many considered beneath her. Yet the letter survived until one day, in a fit of fury or fear, she tore it apart by the fire's edge, but not all secrets stayed behind closed doors. A young servant, passing by an ornate door, paused. Inside, muffled voices spoke urgently names, threats, instructions. She leaned closer. Gossip wasn't just a distraction in the palace. It was power. And what she heard could ruin reputations. If it reached the wrong ears. In Hyde Park, a black carriage raced through the night. Inside, a veiled figure sat motionless. Victoria, wrapped in layers of silk and secrecy, traveled under the cover of darkness. No guards, no announcement, just silence and haste. Who was she meeting, and why in such secrecy? The palace was buzzing the next morning, not just with servants polishing silver, but with something more electric suspicion. That very day, Victoria held a confidential meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli. They spoke in hushed tones as papers cluttered the desk between them. Decisions were made, alliances reinforced, and inconvenient truths buried under the weight of official silence, but masks only hold for so long. That evening, the palace hosted a grand royal ball. Chandeliers sparkled. Music echoed through marbled halls, yet something was off. Behind the laughter and swirling gowns were side glances, hushed conversations, and carefully coded smiles. Not every guest had been invited for celebration. Some were there to watch, report, and remember. Years passed. Scandal evolved, and then came Abdul Karim the Munshi, a humble Indian attendant who rose quickly through Victoria's favor. His presence ignited outrage. The Queen sat calmly beside him, aged and defiant, as her court stared in icy silence. To them it was unacceptable. To her it was freedom. And through it all, one thing remained constant: those eyes. Behind a lace veil, Queen Victoria watched, observant, calculating, and utterly aware that the crown she wore glittered not just with jewels, but with the weight of secrets she would take to the grave. Beneath the grand palaces and polished history books lies something few have ever seen: truth sealed behind locked doors. In the heart of the royal estate, a hidden vault was recently uncovered. Dust-covered hinges creaked open to reveal what time tried to bury: faded letters, unsigned portraits, and secret documents marked "eyes only." These weren't just forgotten relics, they were revelations. Clues to a monarchy built as much on silence as ceremony, even during Queen Victoria's lifetime. Control over the narrative was slipping. At a high-profile royal event, Victorian-era photographers caught something they weren't meant to see. The crowd reacted instantly. Gasps, murmurs, a flash of scandal immortalized in silver nitrate. Once confined to whispers, the Queen's private affairs were now fodder for lenses and headlines. One such eruption happened inside her very quarters. A trusted maid stumbled upon something unusual, perhaps a letter, perhaps a hidden object. Whatever it wasn't meant to be found. Victoria's fury was immediate. With a glare that could freeze the Thames, she dismissed the maid on the spot. The court wouldn't discuss it. But they all knew something had been uncovered that should have stayed buried. In a candlelit salon, British aristocrats leaned in close, their voices trembling with disbelief. They had heard things shocking. Things about letters, secret meetings, and favoritism that challenged the very fabric of tradition. Eyebrows arched. Fans fluttered. One accusation too many, and the whispers turned into open outrage. It didn't take long before the palace walls echoed with more than just gossip. A courtroom-style confrontation erupted among palace staff. Not before the public, but within. The gilded interior, as if the monarchy was trying itself in secret. Accusations flew, loyalty was questioned. It was betrayal from within, but even amidst chaos, grief lingered. One of the most heartbreaking images of Victoria shows her alone at Prince Albert's tomb, clutched tightly in her hand, a hidden letter. Its contents never revealed, but her face said enough: sorrow, guilt, perhaps regret for things she could never undo or things she could never publicly acknowledge. The press, never far behind, soon erupted with a story that would shake the Empire. A scandalous tale of favoritism, deception, and perhaps forbidden affection was published in bold print. The Queen's image, once untouchable, was now dissected by the public with ruthless fascination. Her silence spoke volumes. She never responded to the rumors, but neither did she deny them. In her study, torn letters lay scattered across her desk. Some were royal decrees, others personal confessions. Her face, half-shadowed by the candlelight, revealed a monarch at war with herself, the public sovereign, and the private woman locked in eternal conflict. And then there was Abdul Karim, still by her side. Under heavy guard, they exchanged secret gifts, trinkets of loyalty, perhaps love. Their bond defied race, class, and tradition. To the public, it was unacceptable. To Victoria, it was her final rebellion, and so ends her story, not with a clean conclusion, but with a surreal mosaic of power and pain. Her legacy, half glorious and half veiled, remains a haunting reminder that even queens cannot escape the scandals they hide behind the crown.